Hey everyone, my name is Christopher Tovar. This is interview 1 out of 3 for my education series, and I'm joined by Britt Emerick from Wesleyan University. It's very nice to have you here, Britt.
Yeah, thanks. Happy to be here.
Okay, so before we begin the interview, I need to have you read the statement of consent. So before we begin is the statement of consent. The interview may not commence until recorded evidence of the statement being read verbally is obtained. Repeat after me. I state your first and last name.
I, Britt Emerick,
Grant permission to be interviewed and recorded.
grant permission to be interviewed and recorded.
Anything I speak or do during the duration of the interview may be used by the interviewer for educational purposes.
Anything I speak or
Okay, let me read it to you again. I'm sorry. Anything I speak or do during the duration of the interview may be used by the interviewer for educational purposes.
Okay, anything I speak or do during the duration of the interview may be used by the interviewer for educational purposes
Perfect. And will ultimately be shared with the class.
and will ultimately be shared with the class.
All right, perfect. Great job. All right, so we're going to move to the first question of this interview. And it is going to be, tell me about a time when you struggled. This could include in a school environment or in an extracurricular activity, you were a part of.
Um, just in terms of like a general struggle,
Yeah,
there have been times where it has been difficult to balance extracurriculars and academics, especially with competing commitments in terms of um, expectations for the extracurriculars, even school-sponsored extracurriculars, and
gotcha.
in competition with academics.
Understand. And now, let's go into more detail. What kind of extracurricular activities do you do?
So, for example, the biggest thing I can think of is the big spring showcase that we have at my school, at my high school,
Mm-hmm.
that required like 4 to 5 hours of rehearsal every single day during the
Mm-hmm.
week and more on the weekends, sometimes 8 hours,
Oh,
um,
wow.
called Pops and Jazz. And that was just a huge commitment. And there were times where it seemed almost impossible to study because I was just so tired from rehearsals.
I got
Um,
that.
and then I had my other usual extracurriculars, my like select groups, my orchestra,
Yes,
stuff like that on top of everything.
understand. Now, outside of, let's say that you did not participate in those extracurriculars, do you feel you would have been completely okay with your schoolwork if you had
Yeah,
not done those things? You think so?
no,
Okay,
100%. I would have had a lot of time to focus on schoolwork, um,
understand.
but I wouldn't necessarily have preferred that.
Yes, understand. Understand. You want to keep yourself busy. I get that.
Right.
Okay. So in that case, let's move on to the second question. So how did you respond to this struggle, and what, if anything, would you have done differently if you knew then what you know now?
Um, my response involved a lot of cramming, um,
Mm-hmm.
and just trying to fit schoolwork and studying into a time that it really probably couldn't fit into.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so what I would have done if I had the knowledge that I know now of that time, probably I would have made more resources for myself,
Mm-hmm.
um, just in terms of I could have reached out for help more from my teachers and from my peers.
Yes.
Um, like if I like did work together with like people not violating the academic honor code, obviously, but
Understand. Understand.
um, like working with peers on assignments or just asking teachers for extra help or just for um, flexibility in terms of turning in assignments.
Yeah, exactly. I understand. And now, do you feel that you use those tactics now as opposed to before? And now that you're more enriched in understanding how to deal with this struggle?
I like to think that I do use those tactics more, but at the same time, it's always been kind of difficult for me to reach out to like teachers and students when I need academic help.
Mm,
But I think more so now than ever, I do try to as much as I can.
understand. Understand. Well, that's a good thing. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the final question. So at this moment, either reflecting on your past struggle or still trying to overcome it, what do you feel you learned slash what are you learning about yourself from this experience?
Well, one thing I definitely learned about myself is that I need to take breaks and that I need to pace myself when I'm, trying to work with my academics and extracurriculars.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to make sure that there's a balance and that I don't burn out.
Understand. Understand. Yeah, it's always good to have a balance of different things. It's never a good thing to do too much of one thing at a time. So yeah, I would say that balance is definitely key. Is there anything else you would like to say about that, or is that all that you're thinking about at the moment?
That's all
No,
I can
that's
think
about
of.
it. All right, that's fine. All right, perfect. So I think that's going to be the end of our interview here. Thank you everyone for listening in. This is the first interview of three, and Britt, it was a pleasure having you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, thank you everyone. See you next time.